Friday. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Leia. I'm the content producer for Farmers Footprint. So I've been on the team for about 15 months now, with the privilege and honor of actually going to profile the farmers. So I got to meet Amyrose and Leonina about a month ago on her farm. So excited to have her here today with us. Before we begin, well, I wanted to just have Amyrose and Leonina say hi and where you guys are right now.
Kwai, Pakwanook Zien, Panamak, Tawinoak, and greetings in traditional Western Abenaki. We are in Virginia, sorry. I'm sorry about that.
Hi, everyone. Yes, we're in Virginia and occupy Monacan lands right now.
Beautiful, thank you. So Tori, I wanted to shout out and say thank you for hosting these Farmside chats. You guys are in Mighty Network, so you've seen her before. She's our director of community and really your go-to person if you have any ideas, questions, comments, or concerns. Tori's your girl. Don't be afraid to reach out. I think it was about 2 weeks ago, we launched this Farmside chat series, which is really an opportunity for you all to connect with the farmers we feature and get to dive a bit deeper into their life and their experience, and ask questions. So we had a very successful turnout with Samantha Fox. And if you missed that one, there's the YouTube link in the chat. And yeah, so we're excited to have Amyrose and Leonina on this one. So you got a 2-for-1 this week. And this is really a free form, open format. So we want to hear directly from you guys and have the dialogue with Amyrose and Leo. So after we do our little intros, we're going to open it up to Q&A. And during that time, you can raise your hand. So you'll go under the participants button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And there's a raise hand in blue effect. You can click on that when you have a question. And then we'll call on you and you can unmute yourself and ask the question. So that's a little bit of housekeeping. Otherwise, I would love to jump right in. I will do a brief intro on these ladies and then hand over the mic to Leonina, and then we'll hear from Amyrose. So Amyrose, you really can't talk about her without mentioning all the people that she's impacting on a daily basis through this work. When I went to meet with her, she had me, I think I met like at least 5 other people in that like 3 hours. This person. So she's really the spider in the web, connecting all the people and there for everyone in the most selfless way. I mean, I saw her offering, to come over on the weekend to help shovel compost on someone's land who was starting a garden, and offering seeds. And she's just there for anyone who needs anything. She'll show up, and she's doing that in her free time amidst raising 3 boys and having a full-time job. So huge inspiration in front of us here, Amyrose, and I had to invite Leo to join this conversation because she's one of those people who have been impacted by Amyrose and the work she's doing. And so Leo deserves her own feature, and that's my goal for 2021, is to come back and do her whole story. Leo came to the US when she was about 10 years old from Uruguay, and to this day is still undocumented. And amidst her mixed status, she has done a food revolution in her community. She knocked on her neighbors' doors, asked if she can use their front lawn to grow food, gathered volunteers, handed out that food. So that's just one of many stories Leo has. And now she's on a very exciting journey that Amyrose helped her to get to this point, which she'll share about. But yeah, I'm so honored to be standing amongst you ladies. Thank you so much for your time today. And just taking the time to share your story. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Leo.
Well, thank you so much, Leah, and thank you for everyone being here, and for Amyrose for connecting us.
I've kidnapped you to the country now.
I love it. I wanted to be in the country. I did. Hello, everyone. My name is Reverend Leo. I use rolling pronouns, and I am tri-chair of the Virginia Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. I'm one of the 140 million poor and low wealth people fighting to change the narrative and build collective power in this nation. And our belief is that everybody has the right to live. And I'm just so holding so much gratitude, like holding space here with y'all, with Amyrose, who's doing just that, you know, making sure that we all have dignity and sovereignty and the right to live. I met Amyrose while teaching decolonized history at Richmond's Cultural Roots Homeschool Co-op. She came and gave this amazing presentation on indigenous food and ways to grow it. She showed the kids different seeds and vegetables that, you know, when I met you and you showed me that giant gourd, I still have it. I cried because I had not seen one of those gourds in particular since I left my country, you know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was so it's one of the most precious gifts that I have. I keep it in my altar. But you know, just getting to know each other, she came in and started working with us doing like food redistribution throughout the city of Richmond and the most impacted neighborhoods. And like she does for so many other people. When it was time for me to start growing my own garden so that I could help feed my neighbors, she sent us seeds and support, and along with what we grew and what she would send over weekly, we were able to feed about 15 families a good diet, you know, throughout the summer. And it helped like our community kind of get over that first like COVID hurdle of like food and accessibility like so quickly. It was amazing. So she really, you know, constantly does things to help the community, but in particular on Halloween Day, my previous landlord sent me a letter letting me know that I had 30 days to move out in the middle of pandemic. We lived there for almost 2 years. We kept the gardens for that long, and you know, he sold the house without even telling us, and told us that we needed to leave by Christmas. And so myself being undocumented and my partner being someone who is a convicted felon, it was so hard for us to like try to find a place to live. And we went like, we wore ourselves ragged trying to find space anywhere in Virginia. And so one day I'm talking to Amyrose and I'm like, you wouldn't happen to know anybody? And she's like, yeah, but you got to come out to the country. and in like, you know, 2 seconds, Amyrose connected us with this kind gentleman that lives around here that rented us the home with no questions asked, you know, and for a good fair price. And now we have enough land to continue growing and grow more food for our community, and to start a little like micro farm project that my partner and I have been wanting to do for a long time, focusing on herbs and flowers and you know, magical things, so to speak. So now that you know why Amyrose is so important to me, how she just came and like helped us, you know, like continue to living like in a way that's dignified and beautiful. I'm so honored to introduce y'all to our elder, our matriarch, you know, our organizer, and my neighbor, Amyrose.
I'm so happy.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. So do you want to ask questions?
Yeah, so
first?
like we have a few questions that we wanted to like kind of get rolling so that folks can feel more comfortable also asking questions. This is a land keeper, a knowledge keeper. This is the person that you want to ask. And that's what I'm so excited about living here, honestly. Just getting to know all the knowledge.
This is actually just a selfish thing on my part because now I have her here and now I can fill her yard up with food too.
I love it. So like the first question, and it felt so appropriate to start because that's how we met. And like, how has gifting seeds and livestock and tools and knowledge to others created a self of sufficiency in our community?
Well, the self-sufficiency is what it's all about because so our mission is both trying to be top down in where we get organizations to distribute the food, and we also do distribute the food to individual families, but we also try to be bottom up at the same time and to facilitate that grassroots growing with families and community gardens that grow for self-sufficiency and mutual aid distribution. Because to be a successful program with longevity that is this intentional programmatic architecture is essential to get people to do it at the grassroots level, because we can't be everywhere and we can't be there always. So to get the community excited and get them self-sufficient is key. So we will be working towards creating a regional food shed where we can step into our power as a community with equitable co-created system that is removed from this perverse agricultural industrial complex that we have become so dependent on, that's making us sick. And our collective liberation from the dysfunction in our food system is dependent upon this type of work. Grassroots is really key. By empowering those who are living in the community and living the food apartheid struggle, and they already know what's needed in their neighborhoods better than I ever will. So we kind of try to facilitate that change that's needed to solve the real problems for ourselves as a community. That can't be legislated away. The same laws that built that system make us sick and keep us dependent. And it really makes us nothing more than a commodity traded back and forth between big ag and big pharma. And we need to rebuild that system ourselves, centering ecological principles and applying them to social design so that we can better take care of all of the people around us. And I think that's really, really essential.
Awesome. So yeah, gifting free food and democratizing like the access to pathways is a powerful example of justice. So how does it feel to have created these localized social and food justice networks in such a short amount of time?
I feel like I haven't done anything. I am just like a little piece of the puzzle or the bridge, which is why like I've been called the spider because I like to connect people. But I noticed that a lot of this work is being taken up by women, and that feels so good. I really believe that there is a matriarchy rising in agriculture, and the women will lead the way towards healing and midwife in a new era that is fundamentally more equitable and environmentally responsible. That feels amazing. And I'm so happy that I get to watch this because it will benefit our families for generations to come.
Oh, that's so good. That is so real. So on another note, but also the same kind of note, how have your children's life how are you molding them by your choice to be a farmer and a community leader?
Man, that's a hard question for me to answer. I just hope that they pay attention better than I paid attention when I was little. I don't know, I wish I would have, I did get great gifts from my my family, but I really wish I would have been more intentional about listening to them and paying more attention. But it is good because we have volunteers here that bring their children, and it's really awesome seeing my children interact with those children and teach them little things. My kids will take them into the woods here that we have on the outskirts of our property and teach those people's kids how to forage. And it is the most beautiful thing because I grew up in the woods. My father was always had me in the woods with him, and hunting and fishing and all of that outdoorsman type stuff was a big part of my childhood. And I kind of get to see my father still alive in them, teaching other children as well.
That's precious.
So the intergenerational thing is there even though he's no longer here.
That's amazing. And that's a big part of like decolonization too. It's like teaching our young ones, like, you know, the ways that our ancestors have done things. And that's amazing. And that's a concept that a lot of folks might not be really familiar with. So would you, in your own words, tell us like what decolonizing and decolonization and like the food access aspect of it, how that, you know, plays a part of your decolonization walk as a Native woman?
So I think that that is a huge part of it. So decolonizing art, to me, I don't know, there's so, if you ask 100 different people, you'll get 100 different answers. But to me, there's a huge community aspect and kind of the thought that the tribe either survives or fails together. And just like tribes of the Northeast, because my family is from maritime Canada, New England, that area, traditionally we would store, I mean, depending on village to village is always different, but historically there was between 4 and 7 years always kept. I know that even right now, the Oneida Nation, I believe in Wisconsin, has like 7 years worth of corn or something, or that's their goal. But that was very common back then. And everything was equitably distributed by the clan mothers. The oldest woman from each family in the village would make sure that everybody ate. And I'm not an old woman, at least I hope, probably some kids, they would call me an old woman. But I really feel like that kind of informs my mission to make sure that everyone is fed, because it's in my best interest and your best interest if the whole community is strong and everyone is seen to. I mean, it impacts so many aspects of our lives. The way that we learn, the way that children are able to learn when they are well nourished. And I feel like nobody should have to experience that. I don't want anyone to have to experience that. And I realize that I cannot change the food shed single-handedly, which is why I have all of these wonderful people around me and we're working together as a team. But, and that's, I mean, working together as a team, collective tribalism is also kind of a fundamental value, I guess you could say. And it's amazing that there's such a movement now to go back to, and I try not to use the words like permaculture and regenerative agriculture and sustainability and all of that stuff, because it's been here forever and our families have practiced this forever. And now, in a way, it's good though, because it's getting more people on board with the regenerative movement and all that sort of stuff. They're finally understanding that our traditional ecological knowledge that we pass down from generation to generation by story is starting to match up with the science and the numbers and the data of Western agriculture. And so it's kind of good. And I think that it's going to create a revolution in maybe not in our lifetime, but definitely in our children's lifetime. We'll train our sons to do that.
Yeah, let's hope that they do. At the risk of, you know, asking all of the questions and not giving folks a chance to, you know, gain all of this wealth of knowledge that you have to impart with us. I was hoping that maybe Leah, can you tell us if we have any questions in the chat or anyone with their hands raised?
Yeah, if anyone has a question, you can raise your hand. So again, you would go to participants at the bottom and there's an icon there to raise your hand. If you're shy, you can type it in the chat, but we really want to hear from you. And you can ask Leo, Amy, anyone, any questions really you may have.
So while we wait for that, remember I told you that it would be really great to hear your pig story.
Oh my goodness.
Give it to us.
So we have pigs here at the farm, and they are the only two animals. No, actually, there's a turkey and a duck that are also pets. That, but most of the animals we do have here for food, and they are processed on farm for donation. But I have two pigs that are pets, and they are housebroken. They used to live inside the house. And when they were much smaller, I mean, one of them weighs about 500 pounds now. So there's no way that she's coming into the house with me, although she's a sweet baby and I love her. And she probably would come into the house if I let her. But so yeah, so one of the stories that I told her about when she moved out here about my pigs is I had the pigs in the house, and they're very social creatures. If you haven't been around pigs, they're so loving and so sweet. If you have them from the time that they're babies and they're familiar with you. And one of them was laying on the bathroom floor while the kids were taking a bath. And all of a sudden I'm sitting here at my laptop doing my work. And I hear my child screaming, "Mommy, Piggy's breaking breaking the toilet." And pigs also like to scratch themselves on anything and anything that they can get around. And the pig had completely ripped the toilet up off of my bathroom floor. I will never make that mistake again.
And now you can tell anyone else that not to make that mistake, because oh my goodness, I didn't know you could housebreak pigs.
Oh my gosh,
First of all.
it actually took one of them, it took about 3 days to housebreak with Cheerios, and the other one about a week because she was older when I got her. But they're fascinating animals and they're so intelligent. So highly recommend pigs as pets. They're great.
Amyrose, would you talk about some of the initiatives and projects you've done with the Virginia Free Farm? You know, like I don't know if you guys have seen the videos we've shared on Amyrose Speaking, but just elaborating a bit on, you know, the initiatives of feeding the homeless. And I mean, there's a million things you're working on, but maybe the one you're most excited about.
Yes. Okay. So we work together kind of as a team to address the many facets of the complex web of our problematic food system, from like food access to community garden facilitation, land access, open source learning, seed rematriation to my Native brothers and sisters who are their rightful owners of that that plant material. So actually, I brought some notes out because I actually printed out our website because I was afraid that I was going to not touch on these things, because what we do is so intersectional. It looks like we're all over the place, but that's important and it's intentional, because you cannot address food sovereignty without addressing a whole like kind of like microcosm of little issues, from like equitable access and racism that causes food apartheid. So we have our base thing, which is equitable food access, and that is like we produce thousands of pounds of food a year to help our community. And with our partners, we work with other nonprofits in the area to distribute the food free of charge all around Central Virginia. Some of it's actually gone up into Southern Maryland. So food justice is important because it's community justice. And those two things can't be separated from one another. And all of our food is donated locally with the intention of directly impacting our community. But then we do like community garden facilitation. So personally here, I only have so much property. So we serve about 550 people, but we do the community garden facilitation and we hand out hundreds and hundreds of plants and God knows how many seeds, thousands and thousands of seeds. So each spring we provide vegetable plants to community and public gardens to become a source of healthy nutrition. And kind of like nature therapy also, because being in the garden and working with your hands and getting your hands in the dirt is really great. I can't meditate. I'm not one of those people that's ever been able to meditate, but being in the garden is, I would say, just about the best thing for me, for my mental health. And it's good for everybody to get out there into nature and connect. So these plants go on to reach many more plates than my little farm could ever do alone. And so it's like a vital component for our community impact to the regional food supply by providing the free access to the community. Communities, especially ones that are labeled food deserts, we're supplying a dependable source of fresh, free produce to those people, to anybody who needs it. And they get to do it themselves. Like, we don't come in as some sort of outside savior to do it for them. We work with them so that they can do it themselves. And that's one of the learning aspect is one of the other most valuable things. We were talking before we got on here about people who just want to be leaders and they just want to be a hero and they just want to be in the spotlight. And it's kind of, I feel weird talking about it on this because I'm always constantly saying it's not about me. It's not about me. There's so many people whose shoulders that I stand upon. And if they weren't here, I couldn't do any of this. It's about all of us. And there's no lording over information. I don't hold any keys that I don't give to anybody else. And it's so important that I share everything with everyone. We even have We have a open source learning link on our website where you can basically, I started uploading things to it, but it still needs to be fleshed out. Right now it's just poultry and vegetable production and basic garden and garden and farm planning, I guess. But I'm going to be adding other things to that folder, but it's basically everything you could possibly ever want to know to start your own mini farm. And I encourage everyone to want to do this because we're actually going to be starting satellite farms this year, so that there can be many Virginia free farms, and then use the same model that I have here that's working well to get them in touch with other community organizations to get that good, healthy food out. Because the quality of food, I mean, even for your mental health and your capacity to function at work and at school is so important. So we want to get the best quality nutrition to people. And that's really our like main goal, is to just get high quality nutrition to people because we're sick and it's by design. I mean, I'm sure there's not some nefarious man behind the curtain, but we have been fed a steady diet of processed, hyperpalatable, gross food that is littered with chemicals, and it keeps us sick and it keeps us dependent. And that's what we want to break, and we want people to be able to break themselves out of that cycle as well. So we're doing that. And then we've got a land access initiative where we've actually got a couple people that have land that they cannot farm themselves. So we're trying to hook them up with people in the area that want to garden and want to grow. But we also have, we had some field space here that I just don't have the time or means to be able to grow on. And I was contacted by a Black-led LGBTQ farming initiative, and they lost their land and they weren't far from me. And I was like, come on, because I don't want to grow grass. So you can come here rent free, do the thing, we'll help you. And so, yeah, so they're going to be starting their little farm here, which is awesome. They actually already have stuff planted here. We've got shallots and sage that they are working on. And then they have an area prepped for the springtime planting. And so we're going to be sharing our greenhouse with them. And seeds and plants and education and tools. And I think it's going to be really great because they are growing for mutual aid too. So, and to nourish themselves, because a lot of people, I mean, one of our new satellite farms that is going to be coming on is a trans man, and he has social anxiety, and just is really committed to the thought of doing this. But there's a problem with people being safe. I mean, we're in Virginia, the Old Dominion, and a lot of the traditional farming people around here might be intimidating to historically disenfranchised groups. And so we're here for a safe place for them to have land access and great garden therapy. I like to talk about garden therapy because it is so good for you. I'm happy all the time, and I attribute it to that. But I mean, we want to help them grow for themselves and learn too, because they have just as much right to be happy and healthy here on this land as anyone else. And that's really important. And then we do school gardens. We actually, we donated plants to Bundle of Joy, which is a group of privately owned daycares around here. And then Wild Fern Montessori, they had received some raised beds. So we are working on an indigenous garden for them for the spring, for the little ones to learn. And Wild Fern Montessori is actually an amazing nonprofit in and of itself, where they provide they provide subsidized through donations. They provide subsidies for private education for children that might not otherwise have private education. So they're kind of democratizing private school for kids in Richmond, and it's an amazingly wonderful, diverse group of kids. And I've gone there to teach Indigenous agriculture classes as well. And I was just floored by these kids. They are just brilliant. And you can't walk out of that place without smiling. So we're putting little gardens in there too, because what we really want to do is kind of train the next generation of land and water protectors, because it has been studied and it has been shown that kids that are exposed to gardening and nature early on at those ages tend to be a little more environmentally conscious when they're older. So I think it's really important to be able to get that information out to children now. Yeah.
Wow, thank you. Hello, it's some new people join in. Welcome all. Just for those who just joined, if you have a question for Amyrose, you can raise your hand. So you would go to participants on the bottom of your screen and raise hand, but this is really free form open dialogue. We would love you guys to engage and ask any questions, or if you have a similar experience to share. Jesse.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah, Jesse, you can unmute yourself and go ahead.
There we go. Okay, awesome. Amy, I have a question for you because after learning about your story, I personally felt so disconnected from where groups that might benefit from the excess that I have in my garden. I don't have a ton first-year gardener, but this year I had just like everyday buckets and buckets and buckets of tomatoes that I was just trying to give away. But now I feel like there's such a call to be more intentional with that excess. And so I'm just wondering where to start there, or where you feel, the best ways to connect with specific communities that might be in the greatest need, and really build a relationship and become more connected with, where that access can do the most good.
So there's, have you heard of Food Not Bombs?
Oh, yeah, from you, yes.
Yeah, so they're actually worldwide. Like, they're everywhere. And like, so they, not all of them, ours here are not strictly vegan, but I know that a lot of them are. But if you've got produce, that's cool anyway, because it's not like you need to worry about that. But Food Not Bombs is an awesome way to equitably get excess garden produce out. And so we don't donate a ton to the food pantries here. And I feel bad because I have knocked some of the food pantries before. And so I think if you've got garden produce, groups like that are great. We started connecting with also the Catholic workers. They're all over the place too. So they're probably going to be in your area as well. Those would be two easy ones, because we have a lot of local nonprofits that we work with that specifically serve like those getting out of the Department of Corrections, which I don't know. I'm sure there are ones where you are as well, but I mean, Food Not Bombs is worldwide, so they would be a no-brainer, easy one. And Catholic Workers, I believe, is worldwide also. So those would be really easy, because here in our county, I don't know about all counties, but here in our county, anyone who's undocumented can't go to the food bank normally. Just like they can't go get SNAP or anything like that to get food assistance. So the Catholic Workers feed people. Here, they feed a lot of our undocumented population. And it's really important that all of those families and those children are taken care of, especially now because of the pandemic. So we've kind of been like going overtime for them. We spent our 4th of July doing that specifically, or growing and packing specifically for them, because I don't know if you go back through our timeline at the farm, we posted about it because no one is illegal on stolen land. And so we spent the 4th of July serving our undocumented population. And so I think like Catholic Workers is a really good place to donate excess garden produce to, especially because of the historical diabetes and high blood pressure problems in those communities. So fresh food is really good because a lot of the food pantries or church food pantries always get that shelf-stable food, which is, I mean, it's awesome. I don't want anybody to waste food, but it's just not really great for you long-term. So, fresh food is awesome. Yes, I applaud you for doing that. That's so wonderful. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Just to piggyback off that and talking about food pantries, what do you see as your dream model for food pantries to really be providing better quality food? What would that look like?
So in one of the video clips that you shared of me, I talked about working myself out of a job. Ideally, I would, and I know not everyone has the ability or space to grow everything that they need, but ideally, I would like communities to work those food pantries out of a job and not need all of that shelf-stable. The food, it's delicious. Don't get me wrong. I love some boxed macaroni and cheese. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to you. But it's not good for us. It's keeping us sick. So ideally, I would want our communities to be able to come together to provide for each other and ourselves to work those food pantries out of a job too. Because we could do this. I mean, anybody could. I am nothing special. Anybody could do what I do. And I intend on not just stopping with these 4 satellite farms that we're starting up this coming year. I want it to be everywhere. And there's no reason that it couldn't be. We had someone from Morocco contact us 3 days ago wanting to start a free farm there.
Wow.
We literally could do this and could solve world hunger, because apparently the billionaires that have the financial ability to solve world hunger don't want to address the issue. And you know, everyone's got their own free will, but we have the power collectively as, you know, all of our individual communities to do this for ourselves and for everyone else. We could change the trajectory of whole families' lives by really coming together and working together for common good.
That's real.
I mean, we can pull people out of poverty. We have the ability to do this. We just need to step outside of ourselves and not just think about ourselves all the time.
That's so real.
Yeah, it's like a mantra and motto. I just love that vision of really decentralized and localized. Becomes so much more contextual and meaningful when you know where your food is coming and it's right down the road. And I just love your guys' free model as well. So huge ups. I have a question. And it's kind of hopefully doesn't put you on the spot, but seems like you've developed so many just theses over the course of this work. So I'm curious, if someone tomorrow was like, Amyrose, you have a billboard, you can put any one message on it for everyone in Virginia and hypothetically all of the US and all of the world to see, what do you think you would put on the billboard, or like as a short message that you'd want to share?
Oh my gosh. Oh my God, I feel like I'd have to consult someone way smarter than me because I don't know. I'm the crazy lady running around trying to feed everyone. Man, that's a hard one. And it's funny because like I wrote all of these notes down today because I didn't want to sound like I'm just giving you some oral disquisition on like my visioning and whatever. And I know that a lot of my ideas sound crazy, but to be effective, I really think that visioning needs to be big and bold and all of that. But if I don't know, man, this sounds really cheesy and cliche, but I think that I would just write love one another.
I like it.
Food is love. Food is the love language of my grandmothers. If we just love one another, everything else flows and comes naturally.
Leo,
Beautiful.
what would be your message?
Ooh, oh my gosh. I was expecting questions for in the Poor People's Campaign, we have this slogan that I love because it's super simple. Fight poverty, not the poor.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I like that.
That is awesome. I didn't even know what the Poor People's Campaign was until the other day. She gave me a whole education when she came to help me help the Wild Fern Montessori move the other day. That is amazing.
I like
like
their
that.
slogan. Or there's another one that it's like a whole song, and it's like someone is hurting my people and it has gone on far too long and we won't be silent anymore. So we just say that we won't be silent. And that's like also a thing. Like we won't be silent about oppression, about, all of the things that we fight against. So one of those I think I would pick.
That is amazing. That first one is so profound and so amazing to me because I've noticed that. So once in a while,
I'm going to give you a poster when we get home.
Oh,
because
that's
I have
awesome.
one that's fight poverty, not the poor.
So we get every once in a while we get some haters that come at us because there has been kind of a historic othering of people that might be going through a hard time or need some help and what have you. And there's this idea in people's minds that is profoundly incorrect about all of these people that we help are just freeloaders or moochers, and that is absolutely untrue, completely, 100% untrue. I mean, I've been into some of the housing projects working with delivering plants and maybe like cleaning up areas to plant and talking to the people in the communities. And no one wants to go to a food pantry. No one likes that. No one wants to live that way. And they really, the overwhelming opinion expressed to me has been they want the power to do things for themselves. That is a fact. I've heard it over and over and over again. And so once in a while we get attacked with this sort of stuff. And I feel like that is a good thing to remember, fighting poverty, not people, because there has been some weird othering where people just, it's like a way for them to make themselves feel better or superior than the people that we help. And it's so wrong. It is so wrong. We've been able to turn a couple of minds around, which has been kind of cool, but it always breaks my heart when I see things like that, because it's like, what kind of person is so discompassionate that they can do nothing or say nothing but criticize those that really do honestly need help, or maybe just a hand up. Because overwhelmingly, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be people that are just, scamming the system here and there, but overwhelmingly that is not the case at all. And I've seen it work firsthand. I've been to, because I have a board, we go down the board calling everybody and filling boxes and bags based on how many people go to which area. And literally all of our families didn't need us anymore this past summer.
Wow.
So that othering where people have in their mind that these people that we're helping are just welfare queens, that's nonsense. And they can go take that opinion and they can go put it where the sun don't shine, because that's not true. And I have seen these people work themselves up so that they are feeding themselves. And that is the reality here, at least in Virginia, that is the reality. These people are hardworking. They just have adverse living and life circumstances, and they need help. And as human beings, what are we if we don't have the heart to help if we're able to?
Yeah, Leonina.
Sorry, I kind of hijacked that one from you.
That was beautiful, beautifully said. And Leonina, I feel like this is your lived reality. So do you have anything to share with your experience, really on anything we've covered? But
yeah, it's exactly what Amyrose says. It's a lot of like common misconceptions about who is poor, because the reality is that most Americans are like one like unemployment, 3 paychecks away from poverty. Before the pandemic, we were 140 million poor and low wealth, or low income people in America. Now we're 148. This is something that no one is so far removed that it can't happen to you. Maybe like Bezos or somebody like that, like so far removed from like the reality of like how the world is because of colonization, because of patriarchy, because of capitalism, and these systems that continuously keep people poor and people down, and usually like just a segment of those folks, right? Like undocumented people, like Black folks, like trans folks. Those are the folks that like need the most help to be able to like catch up to like the giant disparity of wealth in this country, really, but in this world as a whole. And so it's really easy for people to other that, like people to distance themselves from the reality that you too could become homeless, you too could be hungry, and you too could need a handout, right? And like the reality is exactly what Amyrose says. When you are providing people with not just a can of tuna and some green beans, and have fun trying to cook that into a delicious meal. And trust me, I've been homeless, I've been very, very poor my whole life. I'm still poor, and I will make those green beans. But how much more meaningful it is when people like come into the community and are teaching you like what they know, so that you can teach to the next, like the next neighbor over how to grow a tomato plant. Like it's exactly what we should be doing. I'm excited to be in space with you and do this together now, because I mean, I agree, this is the way that we can change the global perspective on like what is a right. And like I said, everybody has a right to live, and food is like the first thing that we need: food, clean water, a home, and like, you know, being part of something that like addresses that need immediately. Like we literally put food on people's tables. That's why I'm over here like I don't miss the city. What? I'm so happy that we can do that we can tangibly change someone's life, because it changes my life. It changed my life, you know, through like the pandemic, when I'm like, you know, bogged down with like, oh, just like cans of things, and you bring me some fresh chickens and duck eggs. Like it gives me like the ability to like figure out what I'm gonna cook, how to plan my meals, and make delicious things that feel good to me, instead of like a casserole, which feels fine, you eat it, but that process of like processing your food and cooking it and choosing your ingredients, that needs to be done. And like and like I said, yeah, food pantries are great and like have been really appreciated in my life, but the way that you're doing things like gives you back that sense of like of sovereignty, of authorship, uh authorship. Yeah, to be the author of your own, you know, story, even if it's like the story of the meal that we're gonna have tonight, you know.
I wanted to be by sharing plants and the information and seeds. I want to put the power in the hands of the people that I help. I want them to have control, not me. I guess that's really important to me.
It is. We were talking just earlier about like the idea of like so many people taking on like the idea of what a leader looks like. But to me, a leader looks like this: someone that's like willing to impart the knowledge and train you to train the next person, to train the next person, because that creates like sovereignty, not, you're like the one like end all of like all knowledge, and like we have to come to you. I love your praxis because you're out here teaching us, just like you're out here giving us like the tools and resources, just like you're out here feeding us. So it's like, it's very like wholesome. Like,
the feeding is just like a little step up. And then I want everyone to do things. It's so much better and it's so good for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. We have a question coming in. Nick, if you want to unmute yourself and ask.
Hi, I joined a little bit late, so hopefully you didn't talk about this too much, but I was curious if you could wave a wand, which kind of policy changes or actions do you think would be most effective to help just your community or beyond your community? Do you have like a top 3 things that you would like to see change that we could all be a part of and help change?
Oh man, okay, so this is something that I did talk earlier about policy and legislation and all of that. And I feel like I kind of have my feet in 2 canoes when you talk about this sort of thing, because I actually am working with the Department of Agriculture in Virginia on an EFOD task force, which is equitable food oriented distribution grant money that will be awarded to BIPOC farmers and retailers to kind of bridge that wealth gap that has been a problem, and it has kept disenfranchised communities out of farming and agriculture, and kind of made that wealth disparity. Land ownership is a big thing. So we're starting to work towards addressing that sort of thing with programming and grant, but I really feel like we need to be honest, I wouldn't do anything with policy or legislation, because I feel like as a community we need to work together to make policy and legislation obsolete or unnecessary. We can grow for ourselves, we can pass and save seed, we can dismantle the system that causes us to be dependent and create our own system. Just kind of like, I don't know, I don't like to use fire as a thing. We actually do practice prescribed fire here, but I'll say this, like The system is broken, and it's been broken by laws that have been put in place specifically to keep certain people in power and certain people out of power or out of, I'm not a very articulate or eloquent person. I apologize now. But so the system is, not great as it is. I'm not going to swear. I'm going to be good. So we really need to work together to create our own little regional food sheds. You can learn more about that on our website too. But just like a forest fire burns everything down, it's terrifying. I don't like change, it is terrifying. But just like a forest fire cleanses, we need to burn the system down and create our own, or create a new one, rebuild from those ashes, because what is happening now is not going to be fixed by policy changes in our lifetime or our children's lifetimes. It is so embedded and so entrenched, and it's detrimental to all of us, even people that are doing well, because by keeping those other people down, there's always going to be haves and have-nots, but by keeping some people down systematically, that makes our communities weaker. It creates spots where people don't like to travel, don't like to go to. It reinforces the food apartheid that creates that cycle of poverty. But we really need to do it for ourselves. We can't wait for the people on Capitol Hill to fix it for us, because I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I know it's really not probably the answer you were looking for, but I don't think there can be anything done by legislation in the meantime. And I feel like, so if you try to do things through laws and legislation, that's like turning the Titanic. When if we do it at a grassroots level in our own communities, taking care of our own communities, that's like hiring a tugboat to turn that thing around right away. And we can create change immediately that's tangible and visible in our communities. Whereas if we're waiting for somebody else to do it, we may as well just die waiting for them to do it, because it's never going to happen.
And the truth is that so many people have died, like through COVID and everything. People are dying now because we're not being taken care of the way we're supposed to.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because of that othering. If we were taking care of each other like we're supposed to, like we're meant to, because humans are, a communal animal, a herd animal, then it wouldn't be as bad. But there's just so much out for yourself, and it makes my heart hurt.
Thank you. Thanks for asking the question.
Thank you, Nick. That was an awesome question.
So we have a few final moments. If there aren't any more questions, we still have time, but I just wanted to encourage you guys, if you haven't yet checked out Amyrose's website, it's here in the chat, the Virginia Free Farm, and you can donate there and stay connected via social media, Instagram, what have you. Follow, share, spread the message. But are there any final questions or thoughts or closing words? No? Great.
Well, if anybody, I'd like to share something. So if anybody that's watching right now, if you have space, even if it's a very small space, if you have space and you want to start to try to do something like we're doing here, just please contact me, and I would be really happy to share kind of like the system that I have stumbled into painfully, because I tried to do everything myself for the first couple of years, and it doesn't work. That's not healthy for you, but I can totally help you with the processes for like getting volunteers, and I'm not really great at fundraising. You don't want to listen to me on that, but getting volunteers and getting organized, and then working with the community groups to get the food distributed in a timely manner, because we try to get everything out either same day or very next day, usually within 24 hours. I'm really crazy and I try to get it out right as soon as everybody gets done picking its package. But if you want to try to do something like this where you're at, I would love to help you organize it. It's very easy. And it's easy now that I've figured out all the hard stuff. So yes, please reach out to me.
And Amyrose, how else can we support? Like, what is needed? What's the biggest impact we can have with the people here? What can we do?
Share us if you don't have the financial means to help support us, because we do actually provide chickens and eggs to our clients. So that's the biggest cost for us is feeding animals. and whatnot. We're going to be starting doing milk this coming year. So feed is a huge, if you can donate, please donate, because feed is a huge cost to us. We gotta share our story, encourage other people to grow. If you want to grow, please grow, even if it's just vegetables. You don't have to do all of the animals. You don't need 400 chickens in your yard like we have in the summertime. There's like, gosh, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of birds go through between ducks and chickens and geese and quail and pheasants go through our yard every year. You don't need to do that. You can just start with a community garden. And I guarantee you're going to make somebody smile when you bring them a box of vegetables that's from your heart and healthy. And it sometimes, honestly, that's the best thing you can do for yourself. Like for me, I feel like I get more out of it than the people that I'm giving the food to. That's sounds silly and counterintuitive, but yeah, if you can share our story, that would be amazing. And just kind of grow something, plant a seed. That's something you can do for me. Plant a seed, even if it's just something, a little herb plant sitting on your kitchen windowsill.
And Leonina, do you have any closing words or?
I just wanted to take some time to, of course, can't thank you enough for everything you do for us, Amyrose. And I wanted to thank you, Leah, and the folks, for Farmers Footprint and like everyone of your followers that like help, with our fundraiser to get my family to our future micro farm. I'm so appreciative of everyone that has supported me, even though you don't know me. I'm excited to be here and to get growing with you.
I know, I'm so excited. Together, we're gonna do twice as many people as next year. It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be like 2,000 pounds of food.
Yes, it's gonna be awesome. So thank you guys, and gigantic Leonina for coming in.
Thank you. Yes, and there is the GoFundMe, Leonina, is still up. So you can still donate to Leonina in the GoFundMe link in the chat that we started. And yeah, we also have a Patreon for Amyrose that I'm adding in the chat now. There it is.
We got all sorts of fun stuff like coffee mugs and t-shirts for our Patreon members too. So come join us.
Do they get the calendars too?
Oh no! Yeah, so I'm gonna grab one. I think I have. Oh no, I don't have it here. So we do a fundraiser every year.
I love it. It's the best.
So if you want something for a donation, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit, so all of your purchases are tax deductible. You have any friends that want the sexy farmer calendar for 2021?
Hey,
we've got amazing. We actually have there's very few copies of the 2020 calendar left, but we have a 2020 calendar, and that's in our Etsy shop. Can I put something into the chat?
Yeah, please.
All right, I'll put that in the chat. I couldn't let you leave without one.
I have mine all ready to go.
All right, I'm gonna pop that in there.
Tori, do you have any? Want to close us off?
Yeah, I mean, just huge gratitude for Leonina and Amyrose and Leah and really everyone here today. I mean, it's so inspiring to hear just another dimension of your story and have a chance to ask you some questions. And it's just so beautiful what you're doing to co-create and just kind of like spread the work and the growing and just like that joy and those smiles. And it's just so obvious looking at you and Leonina there together today. It's a really special bond that you're creating just by growing food and doing what calls you. It's such a calling rather than a vocation. So thank you for following your heart, because it really inspires me, and it seems like quite a few other people. So yeah, Leah, thank you so much for holding space so beautifully, and for having a chance to spend time with Amy and Leo as well, because that I think adds another dimension as well. And we have been recording this call, so we'll go ahead and post the replay on Mighty Networks along with all of the lovely links where you guys can support Amyrose's and Leonina's work. And thank you guys so much. We hope to see you at a future Farmside chat. And if you guys have any questions, we are always around. You can contact us or Amyrose or Leonina on Mighty Network. So appreciate you guys so much. And with that, we can wrap. Go enjoy the rest of your Friday, guys. Have a really beautiful weekend.
Thank you.
The Kagwi. Bye-bye.